The Minecraft Middle-Earth community is dedicated to recreating J.R.R. Tolkien's world from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in Minecraft. As a result, we've built many iconic locations, some seen in the films, others described in Tolkien's written works, and still more that received but a mere mention in the books. Now, the Nindalf is one of the latter locations. It is mentioned by Celeborn in The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when he is suggesting a route that the Fellowship should take in order to reach Gondor. Beyond this, we can only find mention of it in The Lord of the Rings, a Reader's Companion book by Wayne G. Hammond and Christina Scull. Knowing this, then, it may lead one to wonder. With so little to reference from Tolkien's own work, how was this location built in Minecraft? What went into the planning for the project? Who created the textures used to enliven and fully realize such an overgrown setting? All of these questions and more will be answered in today's project recap. The Nindalf is a wetland located just south of Eamon Mule and east of the Entwash. For those still left wondering, that's southeast of the two Argonath statues and east of the nearby Falls of Rauros, locations one might know from the Lord of the Rings films. The original version of the Nindalf on the 2013 World Painter map of our server was built by numerous players in job events led by Willem, who was a foreman on the server. That version of the project had its own history, some of which has been preserved on our community forums, and by around the summer or fall of 2014, the project was considered completed. While a good build for its time, the Nindalf did not age as gracefully as, say, Minas Tirith, which was built that same year. To put it simply, the vegetation blocks available in our resource pack at the time just weren't varied or detailed enough to really bring this locale to life. This is where Foolhardy Fish comes in. While the idea for a Nindalf revamp had been floating about since as far back as 2021, and perhaps even before then, it wasn't until the end of November that planning truly began on the project that we now know as the Nindalf revamp, and it would be Foolhardy Fish that would lead it.
I guess I saw it and I thought it looked like a challenge. I guess I just wanted to. The appeal was having my own project, having complete control over it, of what it looked like, what the vegetation was. That was the appeal.
On February 4th, 2024, Foolhardy Fish would upload the project post on the community forums, detailing the project plan, inspiration, lore, and sharing the concepts that had already been built. However, there was one detail that stood out among the rest in this message. The Steven, a commoner in the hierarchy of ranks on the server, was set to co-lead the revamp, something perhaps never before seen in our server's history. Typically, it is a foreman, or at least artist, that is selected to lead these projects, so why is it that Foolhardy chose Steven?
I didn't ask him. Well, in his words, I kidnapped him. He was the one who pushed me to start it, actually. He messaged me and said, are you thinking of starting the Nindalf? Here are some ideas. And he put together the first plan in Paint, and we just went from there, and he just stuck on the project. And he became my co-lead when I posted the project post on the forums. No, he's been great as my co-lead. His knowledge of world edit and just being there when I couldn't be there or when I was having a bad day, he was really good to rely on.
I was quite surprised to be offered it, to be honest, as it was sort of normally a role that goes to at least an artist, or if not a foreman or another designer, which I am none of the above. Being a sort of geography person, I know quite a lot about marshes, so I guess I was one of the more logical choices amongst the commoners. But yeah, I was still surprised and a little hesitant, to be honest, as it somewhat breaks our usual way of doing things.
No doubt then that choosing Steven to co-lead the project was a good idea on paper, and a smart move by Foolhardy. But in practice, how did the two divide up the work between them?
So we did a lot of the planning together, really, because then we both had a really good idea of what we both wanted from the project and how we wanted it to look. So we did that together and pooled our ideas. So in terms of the workload, we sort of split things up a little bit. Fish definitely took the lead on sort of the bigger island areas and the sort of trees and the vegetation concepts for that, whereas I did a lot of the concepting work for the wetter areas, or the squiggles as we ended up calling them, the large ribbon-like areas that you can see across the Nindalf.
Sharing the workload seems to have been no problem for these two. In fact, one might go as far as to suggest that they could have been the strongest project team on the server at the time. But if anything was going to challenge them, it would have been MCME's new tree system introduced at the end of 2023. These new blocks allowed for vastly more detailed trees and foliage, all without the use of mods. The system is known, however, for being somewhat complex for new builders.
It was a little bit daunting at first, particularly for the tree stuff, as obviously I think we were the first sort of people to actually really be doing something with the trees on main world, on MCME. We'd obviously had the sort of texture test and the forest concept stuff that the texture team did before Forest Update was released, but none of that was actually on main world. So the Fish and me sat trying to work out how are we going to make these trees look really good because it's main world and it's going to be really high quality. So that took a little bit of time to get used to. On the flip side, the flower blocks and a lot of the ground vegetation we got, that was really good to work with because we had so much more variety, we could instantly kind of make the area we were working on really different to the marshes that we already have on the server.
Yeah! Oh, the new textures are great. I don't want to say daunting again, but it can be confusing. But Stephen and I took a session where we just built some birch trees, because that's what we needed. We needed birch trees. The willow trees came later, and I was not brave enough to try my hand at those. Being able to do thin birch trees, proper birch trees, it's way better.
The new textures and models were made by members of our community over the course of many, many months, with Ariel Iandur and Tody Gonzalez taking the lead in working to implement the new tree system into our main resource pack.
So in terms of the textures and blocks for the Nindalf, so mainly if I start with the trees, I did all the bark textures for the trees. I did some of the leaf textures as well. I did the willows and the birch leaves that are in the Nindalf. Toti did most of the modelling with the trees, like the branches and sorting out the systems and how you place down that, as well as Ariel. Ayla did most of the flowers. I did a few, but Ayla did a lot of the flowers as well as the little leaf patches that hover over the bits of water in some places, as well as the other vegetation. And then Bart did the algae over the Nindalf. So that's basically it.
On February 24th, the first job event would be run for the revamp. 2 more would follow, allowing players to help make the project a reality block by block.
So we had some commoners build trees. One commoner built a really tall one that we thought we couldn't use, but I managed to sneak it in. It's on the warp for Nindalf. One of a kind, huge birch tree.
I think one of the standout moments was when we were doing some of the planning.
I think we used all the wool colours in our planning. It was a lot of hand placing.
And we were doing some of the long ribbon-like areas, and those were outlined in pink wool, as the different colours of wool would mark a different type of vegetation.
I placed so much orange wool. I think I've said this before, but I placed so much orange wool and it started to look pink.
We were placing that much pink wool that Fish and I basically ended up saying to each other, "Does the pink wool look orange to you now?"
The planning was good. It was, as I say, it was really nice to have Stephen there to help me figure out how this was going to lay out. Because it's a big area, and that was what was so daunting to me initially, was how big of an area it was.
And one of the other moments, of course, are like the jobs and obviously finishing the project. So it was really good to work with lots of people from across the server, whether they were sort of commoners, artists, and then when we actually finished it, sort of being able to view across the entire area and see what was essentially quite impressive, I think, if I say so myself, marshland area that we managed to make from one line of book description from Tolkien. The rest of it was our inspiration, or inspiration we took from the real world.
Finally, on April 9th, 2024, nearly 2 months after the initial project post was uploaded, the completion of the project was announced.
I couldn't have hoped for anything better. The whole experience leading up to finishing was great. I mean, the finishing was a little bit... We were in a voice chat with Bart. I was like, I think we're done, Stephen. Bart, what do you think? And he goes, yeah, I don't have any issues. And that was it. It was done.
We had sort of a very structured goal to it. I think we initially said 6 or 8 months to do the project, and we did it in 3 or 4. So I think in terms of our planning, we were definitely conservative enough, allowing ourselves enough wriggle room for breaks and whatnot. We definitely got lots of people involved. I think there was maybe 30, 40 people helped us out on the Nindalf project, which was great. So in terms of sort of ticking the boxes of community involvement, good quality project, done in a sort of reasonable amount of time, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with how it went, really.
With that, the formidable alliance of Foolhardy Fish and the Steven would conclude, having achieved its goals. Still, the question yet remains, where are they now, and what are they doing?
I'm helping out in Glenfields, there to help out where I can. Ryland's got me doing more marshlands. He does feel very bad about it. He did message me and said, I wish I wasn't asking you for this, because you've already done the Nindalf and the Entwash, and he couldn't think of anything else, so he's asking me to do it. Back and forth at the moment, trying to figure out concepting. It's fun. I'm happy to be doing something. And of course I'm doing the screenshots, and I'm writing the editor's note for the Times, which I love doing.
Well, I have been further kidnapped onto other projects, so I'm helping out a little bit on a couple of plots in the Anorian region, just to finish that off, but my main sort of work now is going to be Mordor. So I've been doing a bit of work with Murphy, doing some concepting work for the No Man Lands and Daggerlad, and how we're going to blend that into the area by the Black Gate. So hopefully join up Frodo's path from the Emyn Wheel across the Dead Marshes all the way to the Black Gate, and then it will be into Mordor after that, I think. So yeah, Mordor is next on my list of things I'm helping with.
And there you have it. From start to finish, the story of the Nindalf revamp is one that exemplifies the power of teamwork. Everyone in this story came together in one way or another to make this version of the Nindalf the best version it can be, and they had fun doing it. And that, I wager, is truly the strength of this community, and, indeed, the strength of Tolkien's world.
Oh, I think it was Pinkwool. I could be misremembering
Yeah,
here.
no,
I've mixed the colours up.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
curious.
swear it was Pinkwool that ended up looking orange. I swear it was Pinkwool. Because I still, even now, I still look at it and think, is that actually pink? Or is it a bit orange?